like all things considered, I actually don't mind putting a pause on life and like slowing down for a second and realizing like what's actually important. The small things start to add up again. How about you?
Yeah, same. Oddly enough, pauses. I don't think anybody's going to appreciate it when it's gone.
Yeah.
Or sorry,
Good
they're going
point.
to appreciate it more when it's gone. Because right
Yeah.
now, I, I personally, I found that people's emotions are easier to peak. Uh,
Right.
People are happier faster, but then angrier faster, sadder faster. Which I think it's sad because in this moment of pause, it'd be nice if we could just kind of like chill out. But it's in reality, it's really hard for people. But I mean, in the end, like these pauses, if we don't take them for granted, I mean, you could turn this into a really nice time with family or catch up on business and just catch up.
There's so many things I think on everyone's list of like things you always wish you could have done or started or like learned or whatever. And like we now have the opportunity that didn't like now you don't have an excuse anymore for why you're not doing that thing, right? Like you have the time. And I know it's a little bit different. Like I don't have kids at home. Um,
Yeah.
so I've heard like if you have kids at home right now, you don't have any more free time. It's worse than before. So I can't truly relate to that, but I think there are opportunities no matter what. Like you're not going out, you're not going to sporting events. Like you have time to focus on those things.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, it's kind of like I don't know about you, but it's people have talked about this like it's already been a month, and it has been a month, but I feel like time's kind of flown.
I think about that too. It's like sometimes you're like, what day is it? But yeah, everything seems to be moving quicker than it used to.
Yeah,
When you're kind of just like sitting at home looking out the window, and I don't know why that is, but I felt the exact same way.
yeah, I'm really thankful that I mean, if this was going to happen at any point in time, at least it happens in the spring in the sense that like hopefully as the summer comes about. I mean, like if this happened in November,
Yeah,
it would have been far worse. So
yeah,
let's
completely
get
agree.
right into it. So I wanted to talk to you about the marketplace, what's kind of going on in our world,
Yep.
and like what are your thoughts on this whole essential service thing?
Yeah, I think, based on the conversation I've had with other people is, when they gave us essential service for one basic reason, I think that is people that got caught, right? That had already bought or had already sold and were going to be homeless that needed to get a transaction done. I think that's one of the reasons. Or the people that had maybe bought their first condo and they were closing in 30 days, they could still close on it, right? So what I believe it is anything that was a conversation that started 2 months ago,
Hmm.
if it's deemed as like a listen, this is your only option, it's helping us get it to the finish line.
Hmm.
But we've basically put any other type of just like looking around business or thinking about selling on absolute pause right now because I just don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, I've had a few clients that, and I've actually gone out and done showings, and which is interesting.
And what was that like?
Well, I mean, the first time I did it by myself, where I went out and I put gloves on and a mask on, not necessarily to protect me, but also to respect people's houses.
Right.
And then I had it on people on FaceTime. And oddly enough, going through the house on FaceTime was a good experience per se. So I went through, we walked around the house, we went and did 3 different properties. I'd hang up, I'd say I'd call you back in 10, I get to the
Yeah.
next place. Oddly enough, we put an offer in on the property, which is so strange. Put an offer on a property subject to being able to see the property for 2 days before removing the condition of seeing the property. And,
Gotcha.
and then your other typical conditions of home inspection and financing would kick in. So we ended up moving the irrevocable to a later time, actually
Right.
last night, to a later time so that we could actually get through the property and not have to have the condition of even seeing it.
Gotcha.
Then we take them through one-on-one, and before you know it, there's so many things that you cannot see in a FaceTime. Like it's impossible. We were looking at the windowsills and be like, oh, they're a bit rotted. We were looking under the deck and like looking how strong the reinforcements are. Like these are things that I'm not doing in a FaceTime. I'm showing
No.
you the house. So, I mean, the complication of it, there's no one in this world, I really don't believe, unless you're buying like maybe a home from plans, it'd be almost impossible to be confident in buying a house on digital.
I completely agree. I think it's like we're in that new reality where if you absolutely have to, you may have to go through this experience, but I think it's like a last resort. It's like, this is the best we currently have
Yeah.
at this moment. And, virtual tours are great, and getting the pre-home inspection done is great, and all that's great. But like, one of the main reasons why real estate has always held up in value is because it's physical, right? Like, it's tangible.
Yeah.
And I'd say, like, buying an investment property or new home off plans, you can maybe do that, right? Just looking at the floor plans, but like, the place that you're going to live, your primary residence,
Yeah.
unless you got stuck in this situation, I think a lot of people are going to hold off and wait till they can physically go see it. So my question to you is, when that deal came together, is there, like, if I make an offer on a property conditional to my client seeing it,
Yeah.
how do I know, like, what frame of time to put in there? Like, how do I know when I'm allowed to go see it?
Well, oddly enough, so on the offer, we originally started out typical offer, just added a condition to be able to go and look at the house.
Yeah.
And then on sign back, we were considering the coronavirus clauses.
Sure. Yeah.
There's 3 clauses in there that were added. So, I mean, there's a lot of flexibility that goes with this. And it's kind of like both parties, no different than any other time in real estate. You have to work together. It's all about collaboration. So we put in one clause that stated if anybody gets coronavirus and they have to be quarantined and therefore can't move,
Right.
the closing date could be adjusted by 14 business days after the quarantine period. That's one. Second one was if the land registry offices or any other major services shut down, that the property couldn't close within 3 days of them reopening. And the third one was more about lawyers, making sure that if lawyers are able to conduct business properly. So, I mean, like, there's a lot of protection, but it also opens up a lot of gray.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a reality in buying these houses. Like, I'm looking at the essential service side and I'm thinking, you're right, that I have one of the biggest challenges. I have someone that sold their house and they need to find something. And I know that most people are taking their houses off the market or they're not listing. The amount of inventory for them to look at is sparse.
Interesting. So you haven't seen an influx of new stuff. Everyone's just stopped and there's not a lot to look at.
And now if you've sold and you have to buy, are you going to have to settle? And it's also equally as impossible. We've even talked about the potential of a rental for the time being. And in a rental situation, tenants aren't letting people through right now. A lot of them are saying nope.
And it makes sense, right? If I was them, I wouldn't either. Like, it makes total sense.
So now the challenge is, what is she going to do? Like, a hotel doesn't sound like, I guess, it doesn't seem feasible, but I mean, like, and Airbnbs aren't really conducting business. So, I mean, fingers crossed, we're sticking our head down and hopefully everything happens for a reason and we can still find something.
That's really, and have you seen, so I've been watching, like we're in different areas, right? But most of my business is south of Bloor, downtown Toronto, and I've been watching prices. And even the one that you made the offer on, would it be fair to say that the price that you offered, was it less than it would have been a month ago? Like, have we seen any changes on that aspect of what's happening?
Yeah, I actually have seen, I think it's not necessarily, it's funny how we say price.
Yeah.
Prices have changed, but it's the result of something. And I think the result is that motivation. There's some people out there that are like, okay, is the market going to sustain itself at the end of this? Or is it going to be lower? I know, like, looking at recession and looking at the principles of recessions, you're not going to have a higher price coming out of a recession. Right. It seems unreasonable to have a higher price. So if anything, it comes out the same, but let's be real, it's going to be less.
Yep.
Now, how far less? And how long until the market comes back? So in that essence, I think people's motivation are kind of going like, okay, like, this isn't the best offer right now, but tomorrow this might be.
Is it going to get better, right? Probably not.
Yeah. So prices of, like, I mean, this one here in particular, I'd say it's down, it's probably down about 3 or 4% compared to the most recent sale on the street.
Interesting. And do you think that, what I was thinking is, like, anyone on the market now, I think it's fair to say, like, they need to sell. They're selling for a reason. Otherwise, unless they're getting some type of bad advice, and I think we can all agree on this in the industry, is like, unless you are desperate to sell, you should not be on the market right now, right? Like, that's fair to say. So I'm thinking that the motivation will change, where we're going to see, especially in April, we're going to see prices that are lower because a bunch of people needed to sell and they got caught, right? But then as new listings stop, and, like, we have a bunch of listings right now, and we've been getting offers on them, but they haven't been very good. And not just a little bit lower, they've been, like, trying to scoop them away. We said, listen, no, Like, I know we need to sell, but we're not giving these away.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be a bunch of those outliers that really needed to sell because of situation.
Sure.
And April's numbers are going to look bad. Like, let's just be real.
Okay.
I think for the first 7 days for freehold in GTA, I think sales were down 82%, as they should be, right?
The amount of sales.
The amount of sales were down 82%.
Yeah.
Pricing's still something we're going to have to keep a close eye on, but it's going to be relative to the situation. And as less listings come to the market, I think whenever that day comes where like the sun shines and we're allowed to be outside, and
Sure.
I think there's going to be an influx of buyers that get back out there, and there's not going to be a lot to look at.
Yeah, I agree completely. The one thing that I've noticed that is probably a savior to the real estate market in general right now is that the amount of houses that are coming on the market is so low,
Right.
which is probably sustaining values, because if the market's flooded with supply right now, supply goes up, demand stays the same, or demand's lower, price goes down. So I'd say like the saving grace of the real estate market right now is people are pushing pause, but that's everybody pushing pause. And then ultimately, I think like my idea, and we'll see. I mean, like we're not professionals here, but I'm looking at if things project out, and I still believe that people are going to need to move. People have kids. People's kids grow up. People get older. They downsize. First-time home buyers, you name it. It's still going to happen. The world's going to continue to move forward. The question is when.
Right.
And I mean, like usually people were always trying to get in, say June 30th, very popular closing date. I think that June 30th is probably becoming obsolete now. And I really think that I bet you the lawyers are going to be really busy by August 31st, where people want to get into a place so that they could start out the September school year. And that's going to be like it's going to be probably busy.
So basically we're going to take the spring market that used to be here now and push it 2-3 months, which used to be the quiet market in August.
Yeah.
It's going to be pushed, all depending on when the state of emergency is lifted, and even when it's lifted, like it's still going to take some time for confidence to go back to the average person. Like a lot of people are still not going to want to go outside, or going to keep their distance.
Sure.
But yeah, so here's my question. So I've been lucky so far. Like we had several closings this month and a lot more next month, and we have yet to have any hiccups. Yeah. Which is great. So everyone's on the same, everyone's on the same page. Lawyers are good. We've connected with everybody. We've found like solutions to small issues that we had. I've heard though that some buyers are now going back and asking for maybe like price adjustments.
I've heard about this.
To change the closing date. Have you experienced anything like that?
It hasn't happened to me. I've got a colleague of mine where it came up, and I've also had a few people reach out to me. Even people that did private sales. Oddly enough, it's funny how people that did private sales are like, "Hey, Josh, can I get your advice?" And you're like, "Okay." They've asked, "What do we do?" As they said, like a lot of money was coming out of RSPs. Our wealth has gone down. We're afraid that the banks aren't going to appraise the house for what we bought it for. And if we can't come up with the 20%, do we fall into a CMHC? Like, there's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
My opinion is like if you can get them, you're still liable. You've got an agreement in front of you. No different than 2017 when the whole crisis happened. People were still liable to, and I'm sure there's lawsuits out there still going to today.
Yeah. Yep.
So me personally, I would say that to these people, if you can negotiate something that gets the job done and both people are happy, sure.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you still got to push forward. You agreed to a contract, and if we let people out of contracts, I think that would affect the entire market in a negative way. It would allow people to get out of anything. And if you set that precedent, what's the point of a contract?
No, you're completely right. What I've started to see actually is in offers, a lot of people are making the deposit non-refundable.
Yeah.
So in real estate, typically it is refundable technically, but it's not so easy to we can go into that another time, right? But they're making it non-refundable, making sure that they have all the clauses with the COVID and everything. And
right.
So that's on the buying side for your clients. Cause I've had this on a few occasions. April 1st just happened, right? That's the time everyone pays rent.
Yeah.
There was a bit of an uprising going on online of people saying well, if you can defer your mortgage, we don't want to pay you rent this month. And some people were in bad situations that really needed it. Some people took advantage of the situation. My whole thought process was at this point in time, like put business aside for a second and just like be a good human and find solutions with each other.
Yeah.
And as a landlord myself, I talked to my tenants and they're still good with their job and it was okay. So they paid rent, but a lot of people didn't. And something interesting. So like they've stopped evictions right now, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, basically the government said, we're not helping. So you can mutually agreed upon anything can happen, but we're no longer helping the process.
Right.
And I think some people are taking advantage of that. What advice would you give? And I guess like play devil's advocate here, like on both sides, to people that have income properties, tenants that are renting, like what advice would you give them?
I'm a landlord as well. And I reached out to tenants. Sometimes, I mean, like, I didn't want to ruffle feathers that didn't need to be ruffled. So, I mean, if I don't hear anything from anybody, like I have some teachers, other people that I know that they haven't fallen on bad luck. When they do, it's always best to completely have open communication.
Right.
If someone knows in advance that they're not going to be able to afford the rent, give it 2 weeks notice. Don't do it the night before, and don't let the check bounce and give an excuse after.
Right.
We all know that it's coming, and even if it's like a last minute thing, you got to have open communication. If there's open communication, then people can prep. If people can't prep, then things bounce, and then people can't align, because landlords typically still pay all the taxes.
Yep.
They pay insurance. They have payments as well. They have the mortgage to pay unless they've chosen to defer. And even that process isn't that simple. So it's like everybody in this game has got to work together. So my advice to everybody is just super transparent, super open communication. Otherwise,
completely agree.
Yeah. So I mean, like, there's a solution for everything, but every single challenge is different.
I've heard too on the mortgage deferral side of things, like it's very much not that simple, first of all. And a lot of the big banks are actually only offering it for if it's your principal residence. So this wouldn't even apply to investment properties. Like some are, but it's not that simple. So I think everyone just needs to fully educate themselves on both sides. And I was thinking like, if you're a tenant and you have lost income because of what's going on, a few solutions, because we can get mortgages deferred, so you can get rent deferred potentially. And a few things I was thinking of, like if the landlords own the property for 5-10 years and they're cash flowing on it, right?
Sure.
If the landlord could say, listen, for the next 2 months, I'm only going to charge you my costs to run it so that neither of us are losing, or pay, half rent and I'll pull half out of the last month's deposit. Like there's solutions to be had here, but it's such a touchy subject.
It's a very touchy, and like the solutions are right. Like, I mean, you could take out the last month and divvy it up from there, and then before you could try and build it back up like a fund. You could also look at the opportunity. If you had to evict somebody, you're going to have 3 months worth of vacancy. You're going to pay a real estate agent a month's rent to get someone in there. You're going to have a lag of probably 3 to 5 months of expenses. So it's like, do you work with someone to get them through the short term, or do you be a prick and
No, I honestly think like it's just the time to be good to each other and like find solutions to problems, whichever side of it that you're on.
Yeah. So you do condo sales quite a bit. How are they showing condos right now?
Well, I would say so right now, my team, we have 4 active condo listings. They're all situations that we deem them to be essential to be sold because a lot of them have bought. That's just a reality. We got stuck. It's not ideal, but it is what it is.
Right.
One of the buildings last week basically said, we're not allowing people in, showing stop. Wow. And we saw this coming because we'd seen it happen to a few buildings. And what we're now open to is having conversations with people like what you had done, where you can make an offer, but we fully expect it to be conditional on you coming and seeing the property at a time that is deemed safe, right? I would say, actual in-person showings have very much fallen off, as they should.
Yeah.
But everyone that's willing to do an in-person showing, like what I've been having these conversations with my seller, like that's someone that's seriously considering making an offer on your property, or else they're not going outside. Like, you can say this in different ways, but they're literally risking their lives to go see your property. They must be in a position that they need to make it happen. So that's kind of how we're looking at it. We've done try to do the virtual open houses, but what you were talking about before, like it's not the same if you're not there, right? It's
a bit of a gimmick, right?
It is what, like, I think a lot of realtors are doing it to show their clients, like, hey, look, I'm doing something. But I think it's a reality that like pricing sells properties.
Yeah.
and physically getting people in there to see it. That's what sells properties. Like it is what it is, right? So it's certainly been difficult with condos. I think overall sales activity for the first 7 days, I think the entire market was down 83% in sales.
Yep.
I think condos were down about 80%. And the system that we use to track showings were down about 75%. And again, like as they should be.
Yeah. We had Monday of last week, which is typically like the 1st of April. And
Yeah.
usually like the spring market's humming by now, right?
Yeah.
We usually get maybe in like Newmarket, Aurora, we would probably get 85 to 120 houses on the market on a Monday, because it's like everybody hits the gates on a Monday.
Yep.
We had 12.
Yeah. And I'm sure those 12 people absolutely need to sell their house.
Sure. They've either that, maybe some of them even bought. I mean, like they sell because they bought. Like there's a whole lot of dominoes out there that's affecting this. I feel like as real estate agents, back to this essential service thing, we're answering the question of the essential service thing, because this is people buying houses and living in a home. Everybody right now is at home living in a home, which means it's essential to make sure that we have a place to put people. And,
right.
And this is the reason why it is considered essential. Now, obviously, we're adapting and trying to do the best that we can, as safe as we possibly can. Because I know sellers out there, sellers don't even know if they want people in their houses because they're scared of people trampling through.
Yep.
So everybody has to pivot. And even as real estate agents right now, I know I'm having open conversations with clients. I mean, I'm going over to their properties. They'll sit on the deck or the dock or like the patio, and I'll stand back. And it's interesting, but I mean, like it's almost like we're getting closer. But I can definitely feel emotions. Emotions are going up.
It's such a, like, none of us can compare this to anything, because the last time there was a health concern like this at this level was 100 years ago, right? Yeah. So no one can say like, oh, I know what to do. Like we've all had experiences in life, but this is unique. And every day you wake up feeling different. I've just been like checking in on people.
Yeah.
Not even just like, obviously like sales are out the window at this point. I think as a commission-based business, I think we've all understood like it's going to be a dry next few months, but that's the risk we took when we started our own business, right? And to be fair, like the wave's been pretty good. Prices have been on an uptick for a while now. Like we've been through the good stuff. Now we're going to have to go through some of the bad stuff, and you can curl up into a ball and hide away for the next 2 months, or you can wake up and feel positive and talk to people and find solutions and adapt in your business, because I don't care what you do. If someone's watching this on real estate, it doesn't matter, right? It could be literally be anything. Is that the coming out of this? Yeah. And I think we're both in agreement on this. A lot of people are going to shoot to the top. Yeah. That took this time to tweak their business, to get better with their relationships, to do all the things they wish they had done. And that's what I'm really focusing on. I know you're probably in the same boat.
Yeah. I mean, like I've been taking this time, and my wife's been generous to give me the time to actually work. And she knows she's on mat leave. I'm lucky. And she's taking care of both our children. And she knows that this is a good time for me to just focus. And oddly enough, doing the back end, refining stuff, coming up with new concepts, meeting with your team and having projects. It's kind of like, if you don't make this time productive, I think of it like this. I mean, like I think of it as business as if everybody in the world if all the other people in the business are going to go and sit at the bar and have a few drinks, which it seems like a lot of people are, but they're having drinks at home. If they're all going to go and get trashed at the bar, do you have the opportunity to go outside and work and do things for your clients? Why wouldn't you go out that way? I mean, like, it's productive. You feel like you're getting something done. Every morning you wake up, you have goals that you set. The funny thing is, I don't know about yourself, but now we work more.
I agree. I'm actually trying to get better at like stop working, because you're home. It's easy to just like get stuck in like, oh, I need to be productive because I can't do this. And I find that I'm actually having more calls. I'm sitting in front of like, obviously there's a makeshift setup. I'm in my kitchen, but like, I brought my desktop home to feel like I have some type of normality in my day. Yeah. But it's tough. Like
it is. It's a different thing that we've never gone through in our entire lives. Do you see anything, do you see any permanent changes coming out of this besides like obviously the indent of like seeing like a flux in sales or sales go down and all that stuff? I get the market data. Do you see any permanent changes coming in our business?
Yeah, well, I think what we've realized is that a lot of the tools that we've been using over the past 5 years, whether that be online signing, whether that's the virtual tours, the videos, they're all really good, and it's prepped us for this moment that we can actually do things without being places. But I would say there's still a percentage of the industry that didn't want to deal with those things because they were considered new at the time. Now they have to, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is actually going to be good to get everyone up to the bar that I think they need to be at anyways.
Yeah.
But what I was really thinking about is like, at this point, if someone books a showing on our properties, I'm calling them and having questions to qualify them, to be like, okay, well, not even financially, but like, how's your client traveled? Are you feeling unwell at all? Like, we're not letting anyone in, right? So the qualifying that we're doing, and I think our value to our seller clients right now, I think is actually, I think I'm getting much better at this, where like if someone's coming in to see your house, they're qualified. And I think agents that work with buyers are going to be doing the same thing in the future, where they're going to sit down and like get all your ducks in a row. Like, we've always done this, but not everyone in the industry does. Like, you got to make sure you're pre-approved. You got to know what your budget is. Like, let's focus in on the houses you actually like, because going and seeing homes on the weekend and open house, just frolicking through everything is one thing. But, I think in the future, as this passes, I think the whole industry is going to be better at like qualifying people that they're actually working with.
It's a good point. It's a really good point. I know about, for instance, whether it's working with people that have to buy right now. Let's just trigger, like, I feel like the world of real estate is triggered by the have to buy. The need to buy is the trigger. There's no reason in the world why people don't have their finances together right now. Like, you have all the time in the world. You're at home. If you're laid off, or if you're working from home, it's kind of like you have ability, and the banks are working. Every mortgage broker I've talked to, even ones that are in-house, out of house, they're all working, and they're ready to go, to the point that when the market is ready and it's open back up, then ultimately you have no reason as to why you don't have your finances together. I know people that don't have their taxes done for 2 or 3 years, and it's kind of like, get them done. This is the window. This is the window to do it.
There was a kind of like a cash flow analysis I did with my team, and anyone can do it, but it's basically figuring out like, okay, how much do I have available to me, right? Just to plan out the next 90 days. How much could I liquidate if needed? I wouldn't want to, but how much could I if needed, right? Do I have access to lines of credits, and how much do I have coming in based on salary or commissions or whatever your structure is, right? And then really figuring out like, this would be a great time to look at your visa statement and being like, I pay $8.99 for that a month. Like, I forgot about that, right? It's been a good wake up call to running a business and understanding the outflow of expenses. Because when things are going well, you're kind of like, oh yeah, whatever. Like, I'm sure it's working.
We say yes a lot.
We do.
We're finally starting to say no a little bit more. No, you're right. Goes back to that qualification. I'm not showing houses to people that aren't qualified. I don't want to let people through houses that aren't qualified. It's like, and those questions, as much as like in a busy time, you and I both know it's hard to qualify every single person.
Sure. Yep.
But this is probably going to create some mechanisms. I can see technology coming into play here, but it's a bit slow. I feel like our minds are well ahead of technology.
Yeah.
There could be an opportunity where when we send someone an automatic email, when they book a showing, that their client has to answer. Obviously, COVID questions are great, but are they pre-qualified? If they are, provide us with like a statement. It's almost like, could we get it to the point that only serious people are looking at houses in general? Like, could we actually reduce tire kickers? That would be great for the market, because sellers aren't put out of houses during times when they don't need to be. Real estate agents are actually working with people that actually can buy and are going to buy. And ultimately, it also makes people get really serious. This isn't a business where, and people have to get back to this. This is a serious business. It's people's homes and people's lives. This isn't just, let's go out for a carousal and see what we can see. So hopefully we see some changes there.
I think they're going to have, I think like everything, whenever like, we're allowed to go back outside again, I think everyone's going to still be dealing with the mindset of now, and they're going to be cautious, but then it's slowly going to tweak. And then humans have a funny way of, you can't predict the future, but you can look back to the past and see how things are probably going to play out. I just think there's a big opportunity here I don't care if you're in our business, another business, just lifestyle, whatever, to like focus in on the things that are actually important, tweak all the things that you've always wanted to do. Yeah, because like there's a lot of people that are just taking this as a vacation and getting drunk at 3 p.m. and watching Netflix. And I'll give you the first week of like, okay, but now it's like, no, come on, like get back to your routine, like get up, shower in the morning.
That's why I think like with the government, I mean, this is an opinion. I think that they're doing the right thing by trying to get people back to work by offering wage subsidies and whatnot, because I think that people have to feel productive.
Yes.
I think if people start losing purpose, then the economy will take a tank. We have to keep purpose, and that means if they have to provide payment to keep people at least focused and have purpose, then we'll come out of this with like a dent rather than a break. And I mean, I kudos to like the way that they're doing things right now. I've been looking at the European world. We look south of the border. We look all over the world, and I mean, I think that we're doing things pretty good in the sense that the economy, if we do well, we're pretty sheltered as a country. That even in like 2008, 2009, when a lot of the recessionary stuff happened in the U.S., Canada didn't go down nearly as much. And I'm hopefully, cross our fingers, as an economy, we fare well during this as well. I think that the real estate market. What are your thoughts on prices in like 6 months to a year?
Yeah. So if anyone tells you they know what's going to happen, they're lying. Like, let's just put that out there. Right. So I can only kind of look at what I know. And what, like I said before, like I always look back to the past. So my favorite chart, and I'm happy to share it with you if we want to post it down below in this link at some point, but it's basically like the last 40 years in the GTA.
Yeah.
So we had the crash in the early 90s.
Yeah.
We had 2008.
Yeah.
And then we had the second half of 2017, right? So we've had a crash and 2 corrections. That's probably fair to say.
Yeah.
Now, when the corrections end, the line starts to go like this again. And in 2008, the government didn't have the type of things that they're doing now. Like you were saying, to income's one thing, right? But like to remain giving people purpose in their daily lives, where they're doing everything they can. Like the economy is something that they're trying to make sure at least kind of, like you said, like this, not like this. And I always look at it as like, we want to have a little like bump. We don't want to have a crash landing, right?
Yeah.
So I just, at the end of the day, no matter what you look at, read the articles, we have a housing shortage in the GTA. That's just a reality, right? If you look at our population coming in and how many homes are available for sale, like it is what it is. I saw a lot of condos downtown, and people buy condos, but I would say people don't buy condos in Toronto because they love condos. They buy it because they're pre-approved. That's the only option, right? You look at other markets in Canada, Nova Scotia, Calgary, Edmonton, you're not buying a condo because you can afford the average price of a house, right?
Yeah, you could argue that part where you just said the reason why house prices continue to go up is supply demand, and supply is not high enough.
Well, that's it. It's not high enough, and unless an influx, and like even all the new projects that we're bringing supply to the market are all on pause right now, right?
And they're all sold out.
I know. So it's going to be an interesting play. Like I would say, as someone, not even as a sales guy in this, but someone that owns property. And, this is a famous old saying, but if you try to time the market, it's probably just not going to work out well for you, right?
Yeah.
So focus on your time in the market, right? Because if you don't realize losses unless you sell at the bottom. And I think
you play the game. Yeah.
Right? Like we've had a bunch of good years. Like this seems to happen every 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's like, big world events, 9/11 happening, then 2008.
Yeah.
There's things that happen, and this is just going to be a blip in time. Yeah. And as a business owner, as a person, we're always going to look back and say, oh, remember what we were doing during that time. And we're going to laugh about it one day. But I actually look as, other than the terrible things that are happening and people are getting sick.
Yeah.
I think, like I saw a picture last night that you could see stars in downtown Toronto. I've never seen stars in downtown Toronto in 10 years, right? Like there's these weird things that are happening in the world that are making me feel like positive.
It's interesting how you said that. Like I scuba dive, and I go down at scuba dive. I got taught in Thailand how to scuba dive from this really cool like British military guy.
Mm-hmm.
He turned around to me and I said, like, it's really foggy down there. And I can't see much. He goes, that's the days you see the things you wouldn't look for otherwise. And I'm like, oh,
Interesting.
I mean, it's neat that like the world's kind of like you're going to notice things that you never noticed before.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but in terms of just getting back to the real estate side of things, like
Yeah.
I feel confident. I feel very lucky that we are here at this moment, that we are in Canada, that we're in the GTA.
Yeah.
You look at what's happening around the world and things like that. Like I feel very comfortable being here with our economy based on a lot of other places right now. And
Yeah.
that's probably the best way I can put it. It's relative. If you have to buy and sell and you do it in the same market, your losses or gains are the same, right?
That's the, I tell people this all the time. And
Yeah.
I say, like, if you buy now and you buy high, but you're selling high,
Yeah.
you sold low, you're buying low. People are like, no, 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 I want you. It's impossible to sell high, buy low at the exact same time. It's actually impossible. The market,
Unless you got lucky and sold a month ago and bought now, but it's not even right. That's the only time.
but it's so risky. Like in 2017, I know some people that they were buying before they were selling because they knew they could just drop the house into the fish tank and it would get eaten up. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, they got stuck with 3 or 4 houses. So, and there's people this road that still own 2 houses minimum, and it's from 2017 because they played the spec game, and you can't play a spec game in this market.
No, I think everything's got to be long term, and just to go back to that, I always go back to this 40-year chart because I love it when I sit down with clients. Like through all the ups and all the downs, and the crash in the 90s, 2008, 2017.
Yeah.
The Greater Toronto area market has averaged a yearly appreciation of 6.83%. Like that's 7% a year, and it compounds, right?
Yeah.
So not only like we're all realizing either we really like our houses or don't like our houses right now, right?
Yeah.
But having a tangible asset that you can live in, and when you're gaining that appreciation, you're not just doing it on the money that you're putting down. But over the last 40 years, if you're getting a mortgage at 3%, you're earning 7%. Like it's hard to find anything else in life that's like that.
Yeah.
So I just look at it like long term. I'm not overly concerned because of that and because of the supply issue that we have.
Yeah, and as you said, like in times of like in bad times in the economy, a lot of people do turn to real estate.
Yep.
And it's the stock market. We've seen it go crashing. It's kind of coming up a bit. It's probably going to stay low for a while. If you think about even large family trust money, big money in this world, a lot of them own a big portion of real estate because they know it doesn't move so much. And we can apply the exact same principles to our own family.
Yeah.
Owning a piece of real estate in these times is more stable than owning stocks. And I think that and then it comes back to like during these times, whether you're prepping your house or getting your finances together, taking this time and actually being productive about your home and getting everything in order. I think a lot of people can really start to realize, do I have the right amount of space? Like if maybe working from home becomes more of a concept, there's employers out there like, this is perfect. Everybody's working great. Let's reduce our space. Mm-hmm. It's quite possible that people start living or are at home more. And maybe they're even like, I think before I saw a stat last night that 38% of people's food and meals were takeout on a weekly basis. Now it's down to what, 5?
Yeah, probably very low.
People are eating at home. They're in their kitchens more. So we'll see about space and see what people think about their homes after.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. I think just on like a final way to end this off, like on a positive note, because I've stopped watching the news all day. Like it's just not productive. I'll like ask my Google Home in the morning to give me a quick synopsis and that's it. And then I'm done. Yeah. Like what are things that you're doing in your business aside just to feel like good about your day? Because we don't know if this is another month or another 6 months. Like we don't know. So how are you staying productive at home right now and just feeling good about everything?
Each morning I get up and I have my yoga mat. Everything's moved up away. My family room's become my little gym. Nice. Before you know it, I was even grabbing soup cans and doing workouts. So I mean, like I try to do a half an hour to an hour in the morning. I always try to do something at night, which is usually outside. As the weather gets better, I'm sure it'll be a lot easier.
Right.
I make sure I have a pretty good structure. I mean, I just kind of go back to like a structure and make sure I do take lunch, make sure I do take a break if I can. It's funny how we can just get stuck to our computers. But for the most part, I find the exercise is the most important. We can't spend time with family, but it's funny how our FaceTime's picked up. So How about you?
I've talked to my family more in the last week.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm talking to like cousins in England I haven't seen in years because this has just become the new reality, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is my third time on Zoom this morning. Like,
Yeah, I know. I know.
this
Yeah.
has become, and I think like we are social creatures, right? Like
Yeah.
humans want to, this is going to be hard on a lot of people, but I just come back to like, I put this on this morning just to make myself feel like I'm in a
Yeah.
regular, like,
Yeah.
like it's the small things that are going to add up. And I think if we just stay positive, and I know that sounds kind of, but like, I just think things will work out,
Yeah.
and it's not freaking out and feeling okay about things, and focusing on the small little wins every day.
Yeah, I agree. So this was cool. This was fun. I
Yeah.
appreciate catching up. I look forward to catching up with you again in the future soon, and enjoy your day.
You too.
Okay, talk soon.
All right, cheers.
Okay, bye.